Hi, this is Ben. I play drums in Forest in the Sea. I hope you're doing well and staying safe during this period of social distancing. The band started this video series that airs every Monday and Thursday at 7 p.m., where they go over different things such as influences. We're going to be covering different topics here and there. Nick and Kyle went first. If you haven't seen those, definitely check them out after this. Some great stuff there. I'm going to be covering influences just like Nick and Kyle did. Now, this isn't really like a Mount Rushmore or anything of drummers. These are just people who I'm personally influenced by. The first one's going to be Levon Helm from the band. I think he made me a better player instantly just by really listening to what he was doing. Levon is one of the lead singers. The band pretty much has like 4 lead singers. Everyone's amazing. But when Levon would sing and play, you could really hear how he wouldn't get in the way of the vocals. Just crazy, tasteful, appropriate parts that really serve the song well. And that's what I try to do now. That's really just all I'm trying to do. Still some interesting things going on, but at the end of the day, I'm not stepping on anyone's toes, just playing the song. The next is John Bonham. I think that goes without saying. He's like the rock drummer. Just a definite recognizable sound. Mick Fleetwood from Fleetwood Mac, another player that really did well serving songs, and also he has like my favorite drum face of all time. I wish I could just take lessons off of him on how to look playing drums. He looks awesome, having the time of his life. And there's guys like Steve Gadd, Jim Keltner, who have played on everything, just a ton of records. And there's modern guys too, like Jason McGurr from Death Cab for Cutie. Crazy stuff going on with his left foot on hi-hat, some interesting parts. Ronnie Vannucci from The Killers. He has giant cymbals. He has crash cymbals stacked for hi-hats. Griffin Goldsmith from Dawes. He's a big fan of Levon Helm as well, so it makes sense that I like him. Zach Levine from Pinegrove. Really in touch with the vocalist. They work so well together. He's amazing at what he can do with a song. Marshall Vore from Phoebe Bridgers. He has some really cool parts. Brian Devendorf from The National is another one of my favorites. The biggest compliment I've ever received was after I played a set, someone asked me if I liked The National. I don't know if that was supposed to be a compliment or not, but I sure took it as one. Now, Kyle did some loop pedal stuff. Today I'm going to cover practicing with a metronome. Everyone uses metronomes. If you don't, you should. I'm going to show you some different ways to use your metronome to get the most out of it while practicing. Unfortunately, I'm not using a whole drum set today or anything because of noise. I'm going to be using a practice pad drum set, which you can see here. We have this for snare, floor tom, crash cymbals, rack tom, and then for hi-hat, I've sort of made a makeshift one because I ran out of this DW practice pad thing. I have a rack tom here, and I have 3 practice pads stacked on top of it. Still have a kick down there as well. That's going to be nice. With that being said, we are going to look at some warm-ups, things like that, and exercise. I'm going to have examples right there. It could be in the video itself, or it could be in a link below. I'm not sure. Nick is going to be editing all of this stuff, so we'll see what happens. In addition to that, I'll throw some videos and stuff in the comments about the drummers, things like that. Some YouTube videos so you can see for yourself if you're not aware of who they are or haven't heard their music, or if you're just bored. I know I'm on YouTube a lot at this time. So yeah, we'll hop into some of the exercises, go over that, alright? Okay, so first let's take a look at this 4/4 pattern that we're going to be doing, and then we'll talk a little bit about how we're using the metronome, alright? So, the first 2 measures of the pattern, we have straight 16th notes in the snare drum. That's going to be right, left, just alternating. And then we have bass drum, every downbeat, quarter notes, 4 on the floor. Okay? Next 2 measures, we have 16th notes again, but if you look, they're sets of 3. So it's bass drum, snare, snare, right, left in the snare every time. Which is going to sort of get a different pattern going there. Almost, we want to make sure we're not doing triplets there or anything. It's still going to be straight 16th notes. It's pretty neat. So before we try that, let's talk about how we're going to be using the metronome. Now, everyone uses metronome, definitely uses metronome with eighth notes, quarter notes, all that good stuff, to sort of get a little bit more independent from the constant pulse and sort of security blanket of that. I use a metronome a little bit differently as well. So I do the eighth notes. I start with the eighth notes. We're going to do an exercise with eighth notes. We're going to do one run with quarter notes. Then we're going to take the second and fourth beat out. So we're only provided 2 beats in each measure. And then finally in the fourth run, we are going to be doing just 1 beat per measure. We're getting 1 and nothing else. Okay? Now with these and with warm-ups and all that good stuff, I like to go at 80 beats per minute, 100 beats per minute, then 120 beats per minute. Depending on what I'm playing, even 140 if it's going to be a little bit more intense, need a longer warm-up. So today, all of these are going to be 120. I'm feeling pretty good. I've been playing a little bit. So everything we do today is going to be 120. Just know that you can do those at whatever tempo feels comfortable. Feel free to build it up if you need to. Do whatever you need to do. Or play it at 140. That's fine too. So this is the first one. This is going to be eighth notes. Okay, now we're on to quarter note pulse. Okay, so now we are on to just getting beats 1 and 3. It's starting to get a little interesting, a little bit tricky. With this, we still have that 120 tempo. It's just going to feel halftime based off of what the click is giving us. That's why I gave us this check pattern in the beginning to make sure that we have a good sense of tempo there, as well as when we repeat this over and over again, it's just a nice way to make sure that we're all on the same page. All right, so let's try this out. I'm going to play some 16th notes here just so you can sort of see where we're at, okay? Okay? Let's try this. Last but not least, we are looking at 1 beat per measure. We're getting the downbeat of 1 and nothing else. Before we jump in though, let's take a look at the last measure. We have a quarter note on beat 3 with snare and bass. Then we have a quarter rest on beat 4. With this one, just like all of them, I would recommend repeating. I like to repeat this one because it ensures that we were on. If we just play through it and we're only getting the downbeat of 1, we could be fine as far as getting to the downbeat of the 4th measure, but there's a lot of things that could go wrong with just playing a quarter note and then a quarter rest going into the next measure, especially since we've been playing 16th notes up to there, so there's a lot more counting going on. Alright, let's try it. I'll start the metronome up, I'll let you hear how it sounds, I'll play some quarter notes just to sort of get you in the tempo, then I'll jump in. So that's all we're getting. Still 120, just beat 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so here we go. Like I said, you can do this at 80 beats per minute, 100 beats per minute, 120 beats per minute. Coming up next, we have the same exercise just in 3/4. So let's check that out. Okay, now we're into 3/4 time, just 3 beats per measure rather than 4 that we were just in. We have the same check pattern. We just have the measure filled with 16th notes and then the bass drum on the downbeats. We have the same figure. It doesn't change, but it does look a little bit different because of the time signature that we're in. Because of the time signature, we have a 5th measure now. So we have the downbeat of 1 on the 5th measure, and then we have a half rest that gets 2 beats. With that half rest, it could get a little tricky depending on what kind of metronome technique we're using, what kind of notes are being provided. So let's try it. We're going to start out with 8th notes first. So the 8th note pulse. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Great, now we're going to do a quarter note pulse, so we're getting every single beat, and let's give it a shot. Here we go. Now we're just getting the downbeat of 1 for each measure, so we're getting beat 1 and nothing else, nothing on 2 and 3. I'm skipping over 2 beats per measure right now because I think it's a little bit trickier. You'll have to see which one you think is more difficult, this one or the next one with 2 pulses per measure. So let's get this one started up. So that's all we're getting. Okay. Okay, and finally we have a dotted quarter note pulse. I saved this one for last. I skipped over it because I think it is very tricky. We have a dotted quarter note, which is 1.5 beats in 3/4 time. So we have a dotted quarter note and then another dotted quarter note for each measure. We have it on the downbeat of 1 and then the and of 2. That's why it's tricky. We have the downbeat still, but we also have an upbeat pulse. So it can kind of throw you off a little bit. I will play the dotted quarter note pattern, and then I'm going to play just quarter notes, 3 of them per measure, just so you can hear how that sounds, okay? So here we go. That's the dotted quarter note. So that's still 120, still the same pulse. All right, let's try this. All right, thanks a lot for watching. Leave a comment. Let us know what you thought of the patterns, the metronome methods, what kind of methods you use to practice. That'd be a nice discussion to get started. Give everyone some different ideas, something to try. We're open to suggestions as well, so if you have anything that you would like to see get covered, definitely drop a comment there. Couple things with those patterns. If you found that those were easy and you want a little bit of an added challenge, you can add a hi-hat to where the metronome pulses are. So say you have a quarter note pulse, you add quarter note to the hi-hat foot, 8th note, dotted quarter note, any of that good stuff. It's going to work. That definitely adds some challenge there. You can also feel free to move around the kit with that pattern of 3, the kick, then 2 snare hits. You can go from tom to tom, cymbal to cymbal, any of that good stuff. So that can really add a nice little lick to your playing as well. So something to think about. Yeah, we look forward to talking to you, discussing each episode, and we hope you keep tuning in for this. All right, have a nice night. See you.